What's up? I'm Antonio here, and today I have a magical show just for you. In this case, it is a different magical show because I'm not going to be taking a lot of props from a case. I'm going to be talking about something that happens quite a lot to me, and it is that you are, imagine that you are at a party or some kind of reunion, you are with friends, with family, a mixture of both, right? And suddenly someone goes like that, and they pull out a deck of cards, and they give you the deck of cards, and they tell you, okay, do some magic. Most times, when you take the deck of cards, you can do a couple of tricks, and that's it. The deck of cards goes away, you put it out, and that's it. But sometimes the right atmosphere, the right climate, right, it's developed, and you do a trick and they want another one and another one and another one, and suddenly it's like you are doing a show for them. They are silent, they don't speak, they are waiting for you to do the next thing. And that's something that I really struggled with, because when I take the deck of cards, I do a trick that I really like, then I do a really good trick, and then if they want a third or a fourth trick, I find myself like, I don't know what to do now, because I showed you like the two most amazing things that I can do with a deck of cards. So that was the point when I start to develop, I start to create a full sequence. I don't know exactly how long this could be. I think in the long end this could be approximately like 25 minutes, something like that. It depends how much you want to stretch it. But this could be like a half an hour act just with a deck of cards, and for most of the tricks that I'm going to be talking about, you don't need the whole deck to be complete, apart from some cards that you can change pretty quickly, pretty easily. And this is great if they give you a deck of cards and you can do anything you want, anytime, any amount of time that you want. This is a good structure. So we start with simple things, we start with easy things, and then we are escalating little by little, right, to a very dramatic end. Right? And the cool thing about this is that if you stop at any point, it doesn't matter. If people start to lose interest or anything like that, it doesn't matter. So without further ado, let's take a look at the act, the improvised performance that I would give with just a pack of cards. Let's go! Woo! So the first thing that I would do is a very simple double lift transformation. I would ask someone to take a card, and I would always force a card, because these cards that I'm going to force, it's not important the value of the cards, but I'm going to be forcing two cards that are going to be appearing during the act, during the performance. And the first card that I want to force, I wanted it to be like a higher card and a black one, so I can go for the classic force. I am not a very good classic forcer magician. I use the Paul Daniels classic force that I learned from Bravura, and I also love the attitude force that I learned from Mark James' #1 Penguin lecture. But the cool thing about this is that I want to force two cards. If I don't hit perfectly the classic force in this moment, I have a second chance in the second card, which is the card that I really need to force. Not because I need to force it, because both routines can use free selections, but I really like forcing cards because I make sure that they are different, they are going to be remembered properly, they are not going to forget the names of the cards, because I always use cards that they are going to remember. Here in Spain we are not that used to French deck, and forcing cards is quite funny, because I go like that, okay, you can take any card you want, this one, okay, perfectly, and I classic force if it goes right, and I know that it is the 9 of clubs. This is not a very good example of a card that they are going to remember, but I want to force a higher black card, and for the next routine that I'm going to be talking about, I force a lower red card. And what I do with this card is lose it. I lose the card in the middle of the deck, I control the card to the top, and then I basically do a double lift change. I show the top card, and it is better if it is quite different, like the 6 of diamonds. And what I always did was turn around the card, put it on the spectator hand, and when they turn it around, it changed to their selection. But I learned in the Gary Jones at the table lecture, which is great, a change. I don't want to perform it, I want you to see it in the lecture, which is quite cerebral. It plays with misdirection, and People swear that they have seen the car change, right? Looking at the face of the car, which is great. And here I have kind of the theory of Gaetan Bloom. In Gaetan Bloom Penguin lecture, he talks about talking about the vanishing bottle. He talks about how if a trick is perfect, if a trick is really perfect, people tend to know how the trick works. If you take a vanishing bottle and you put it inside a paper bag and you automatically crunch the paper bag, there are not a lot of solutions for that bottle to be, right? And people are going to be coming up with solutions quite quickly. But what Gaetan Bloom says is, if I put the bottle inside the paper bag and now I misdirect people to another place, and he uses the vanishing pot of flowers, if I misdirect people to another place, they are going to forget about the bottle, and now when I pull out the bag and I crunch the bag and the bottle is gone, people are not going to be that suspicious of only one or two methods because they forgot about the bag for some time. So now the possibility of the bag being changed, or the bottle, or taking out the bottle from the bag in a certain way while we were looking at the pot of flowers, that theory emerges, right, because of the presentation. So I think that with Gary Dunn's presentation of the double lift, the switch with the double lift, I think is great because it's not that perfect. It's not like, okay, this is the car, I put it on your hand, take a look now. If you do that, people kind of know that somehow you switch the car after you turn it around, right? But with Gary Jones' presentation, they have less options to think about, right? Because you only have one car in your hands, but you misdirect them when they can see the face. It's brilliant. It's simply brilliant, and it really looks more difficult. You are doing the same maneuver of the double lift and put it in the hand. You are doing the same maneuver, but it looks more difficult because you are misdirecting people to look at a certain place, and laymen see that and they think, oh my god, you misdirect me so well. And it's like, truly, you don't really need to misdirect people to do that trick, because you can do it on the hand, turn it around, there's no problem. But with the misdirection, the trick works much better. So that's the first thing we do. I force a higher black card, which is not necessary, but I'm going to be doing tricks with the two cards and I want them to be quite different. And then I do the switch with the double lift by Gary Jones. A great trick to start. So I already forced the 9 of clubs, a high black card, and now I can force the 4 of diamonds, a lower red card, and by chance they are an invisible deck pair, like an Easter egg there for magicians. So this card that I already forced, sometimes I keep it in the spectator hand and sometimes I put it on the table, and it doesn't matter if it is inside the deck, because quite quickly you can call out the card and have both cards prepared for the last moment where they think that you are going to be magic with them. But I think it's great to have this on top of the spectator's hand or on top of the table. The important thing is that for the second trick they are not focusing on this card, because we are not going to use this card. It's quite important to make sure that people know what the trick is about. If they think that the trick is about this card and then nothing happens with this card, you are going to undermine your ability. They are going to be like, oh, I thought that the card was going to appear there and nothing happened there. So it's quite important to set the expectations right? So this next trick I call it 5 possibilities, and this is a trick that I learned in a Jean-Pierre Ballerino set that he put out with a couple of decks, a normal bicycle deck and a gimmick deck. I learned this a long time ago, but it is basically you force the card. And I love doing the gag, okay, show the 4 of diamonds to everyone, and sometimes I say this even before they take the card out of my hand. If I want to force this card in a surefire way, my go-to force is the riffle force with the break. Okay, very good, take the card, and it's quite fluid, right? There is no countdown, take the card, it's fluid, it doesn't matter, it truly doesn't matter. And I have a whole video talking about my philosophy about card forces, right? So I force the 4 of diamonds, I lose the 4 of diamonds, I control the 4 of diamonds, and I control the 4 of diamonds third from the top, right? Like this. Third from the top. I have the 4 of hearts. This is something that always happens, but in this case it's quite interesting. And this trick basically is where, when you show the spectators five cards and you say that your card is in the middle of these 5 cards and they go yes, and then you count the 5 cards. You say the card is the 4 of diamonds, of course, and now you only have in your hands 4 cards. The 4 of diamonds is gone, and in the middle of the deck, the 4 of diamonds is face up. Right? I'm pretty sure that with the definition you know what trick, what move I'm talking about. I don't know the exact name. I've seen a lot of people doing variations of this trick, and I love this way of presenting the effect. Some gags that I do in between are gags like the card is under the ashtray, or the card is in your pocket, or the card is, I don't know, inside of your drink, or inside a box that is there, and when they open it up or they look in their pocket and it is not, I always go like, but it would be cool, right? It would have been amazing. Oh my, you truly believe that I was going to do that? So those moments at the end of the day are the important part of the magic. And one more thing about this trick, something that I did a lot of times was when I have the 4 cards in my hand and the selection is missing, and the selection is in the middle of the pack face up, something that I did a lot of times was having the pack of cards on the hands of the spectator. That's something that I do always. I have the 4 cards in my hand, they are 5 and then they are 4, the selection is not here. You have the cards in your hand from the very beginning, which is a great idea to have in mind. You have the deck, the whole deck of cards there from the beginning, and I had here 5 cards only, and now I have 4, and the 4 of diamonds is not here. And it is great when you give these 4 cards to everyone and they start looking at the cards and there is nothing glued. They always think that 2 cards must be glued together or something like that, and there is nothing to see with those 4 cards. Is what I always say is those kind of tricks that if you bought a gimmick to perform this trick, you would be in love with this trick. Like, oh my god, look at this gimmick, it's incredible, but there is no gimmick. So it is a trick that is so good that it looks like it should require a gimmick, and if this trick required a gimmick, I think that more magicians would be performing this trick. A lot of times we disregard these sequences because they are basic and they are not from a layman's point of view, and from a magical point of view they are quite strong. So the spectator is holding the deck of cards, and I take the 4 cards and I give the 4 cards to a spectator to look that they are only 4 cards, nothing else to find. And what I used to do a lot of the times is say to the spectator that is holding the deck, okay, look through the deck and you are going to find something face up, and it is the 4 of diamonds. But what happened? Most of the times spectators do this, and when they see the 4 of diamonds, they go like, oh my god, and they throw the deck, they put it on the table, and the moment is lost. Sometimes they go like that and they don't know how to spread the cards, and they go past the 4 of diamonds, the face-up card, and they see nothing, and you go, no, take a look again. So this is something that was inspired to me by Colby Fisher. I think that a lot of the times magicians say that this trick was inspired by Juan Tamariz, and they are basically doing a Juan Tamariz trick. That's not inspired. You are doing his trick, which is not wrong, but don't say that it is inspired. You are doing his trick. In this case, it is truly inspired because this change that I did with this routine was inspired to me. It was inspired by Cody Fisher's lemon trick, the built-in lemon trick, and he uses a gimmick that makes completely possible, which is great. Cutting the lemon by the spectator. The spectator can cut the lemon, open the lemon, take the bill and show that the bill has the signature, which is great. But Cody Fisher says, I can do that, and I know that from an effect point of view is stronger because I am not touching the lemon, but it is not that strong because when a spectator cuts the lemon, they are always cutting the lemon offside. They don't know how to cut it. Sometimes they try to cut it straight and they can't because the bill is in there, and they open the lemon to them, and when they open the lemon to them, they see the bill and no one else see the bills, and sometimes they put the bill out of the lemon even before people can see how the bill is inside. So you are not really winning that much when you ask a spectator to show the effect on their hands. Something simple like turn around this card or open your hand to show sponge balls or sponge rabbits, that's great. But when you are asking people to cut a lemon in half and open the lemon towards the audience, and that's too much. Or when you are asking people to spread a deck of cards but spread it slowly so the energy is increasing. Sometimes they go like, and they open the deck right from the middle and oh yeah, the card is here. and that is kind of like an anticlimax. So I always make sure that my hands are empty, I'm doing nothing, you have the cards there from the beginning, and I am the one that express the cards, like that, spread the cards, really slowly. People go like, what happens? What happens? And I say nothing, and when I feel that I am close to the face-up card, you more or less know where the card is going to be, if you know how this trick works, the method. And you can control perfectly if you want the card to be higher or lower in the middle of the deck. When I see that it's coming, I say there is something face up, and as soon as I say face up is when the card pops in there, and I show it, which is great. And then I show that there is nothing else, I take the card out, thank you very much, and that's how the sequence ends. And I take the card and I put it on the table or on the spectator hand that is holding the other 4 cards, which really cements the idea that this card was with the other 4 and magically traveled to the middle of the deck. So this would be the second sequence that I would do with just a regular deck of cards. Okay, so right now I have the deck shuffle in use. I started with the shuffle deck in use and I continue with the shuffle deck in use. And on top of the table I have the 2 selection. The other 4 random cards that I used in the previous routine, I put them in the middle of the deck and I shuffle, and sometimes I put the cards in the middle of the deck like that, right? Because if I do a sequence with the aces, I'm going to be losing the aces exactly the same way to control the aces. I don't know exactly how you call that, how the name of that control, but I love doing things, mirroring the maneuver that I would do to create a method, right? I love spreading cards with the same rhythm and with the same attitude that I do it if I am doing a call. I spread cards exactly the same way if I am calling cards or if I am not calling cards. And if I am losing multiple cards in the middle of the deck, I am going to do it exactly the same way as if I am doing it for controlling some cards, right? I think that you can understand that. And that's something that I learned from David Williamson when he told in his Ridiculous, in his DVD sets, that he didn't like his second deal. I have no idea how to perform a second deal. I've never tried in my life. I'm scared to death of that move. He said that he hated his second deal because when he counted cards, he could see his thumb moving, right, when you count cards. But when his second deal, the thumb was the whole time on top of the deck. So what he did was getting used to counting cards without second dealing, counting cards for real without moving the thumb. So he is, instead of trying to make the move look like reality, he makes reality look like the move, which is extremely, extremely professional from him, right? So, as I mentioned, the 4 random cards are here. I have here 2 selections, so the third thing that I would do is quite simple. I would lose both cards, right? And I would put one of the cards on top of the deck and I would use a double undercut, nothing fancy. I would take the other card, put it on top of the previous one. They don't know that, a double undercard, and then I would do maybe a jog shuffle or something like that. Quite simple, nothing fancy. The important thing is to be relaxed while you're doing the controls so you can focus on presentation. And I've done this the other way around. I would go like this, right? So the first card that I lose is the first selection and the second card that I lose is the second selection, and they are going to appear in the same way. So what I do is I explain the difference between skill and magic. And what I do is I say that I am calculating where the card is, the 9 of clubs, and I do some fake shuffle, stuff like that. And then I say, I think the card is 15 from the top, let me do one more shuffle, and I do some riffle shuffle like that, making sure that the cards on top doesn't change. And then I say, I think your card is on top. And then I simply do a double lift. I do a double lift and I show the first selection. And at this point, people normally don't applaud because it's like a laboratory thing. It's like, it's 15, it's like, okay, it's on top. And I say that's exactly what I thought. You see that? People don't like ability, people don't like skill. Because skill are cold, it's cold. Skills are cold. It's like, look how cool I am, I can do that stuff. What people truly like is magic, and that's what I'm going to do for your card. And then I take away the double lift and I put the supposedly first selection, which in fact is the second one, on top of the table, and I take the case and I put it on top of the card. And you can see the card under. It's not that I'm putting the card covering the whole card. Something that I used to do was putting the card inside of the case. But that make people like expect something from that card. And some people suspect about the case and they start looking inside the case and they are not going to find a thing. So now what I do is, by any means that I want, I turn around the first selection in the middle of the deck, and sometimes I turn around the first selection asking some people to shuffle some cards, and then I go, your second selection is going to appear by magic, you have shuffled the cards, I did nothing. And it would be amazing that in the middle of the deck there is one face down card. And sometimes I even say people, your card was the 4 of diamonds, can you see the 4 of diamonds here? And they go, no, the 4 of diamonds is, it must be this card. But it must be this card, right? And what I say is, and here you have it, the 4 of diamonds. And which is great, if you perform this trick correctly, people are not going to be suspecting a thing about the card under the box. Because previously I have placed the selection card on the table and nothing happened. Right? So it is very important, I didn't mention that before, to set the selections on top of the table face down. Because people get used of having the selections on the table face down and nothing happening to them. So when something happens, it's too late, right? So I go like that, and people's first reaction when they see that is like, no, you are wrong, right? People don't go like, that's the first selection, people go, you are wrong, and I was like, that's the first selection, that's your, but your, and I start to stammer, and I don't say exactly, but your card was, your card was on, and they go, there on the table, under the case. And this is something quite interesting, and it is, you must be prepared with your final lines, what I call the superhero line, where the superhero delivers a punch or something like that, and they have like a line, something that they say, right? Like the Ninja Turtles, like Kowabunga or something like that. So if you go to take the card under the case, you show that there is nothing under the case, and you take the card and you go, people are going to react because you changed the card. But something that I love doing is like, but your card was there and this is your card. Let me look. And sometimes I say someone, okay, take a look at the card. And right before they turn around the card, or if I turn around the card, I go, okay, it makes sense. I say something like that, this makes sense. Which in fact, it truly doesn't make sense that the card changes places. But it's like, somehow it makes sense, because I was looking for the second card, and now the second card is the first one, and the first one is the second one, and I was trying to show the difference between skill and magic, and the magic that I showed was more impressive than the thing that I said that I was going to show. So it is a great routine. And if you take a tip from this routine, take that. Think about the thing that you are going to say right before the ending, right? When you have the card here, don't go like, what was your card? 4 of diamonds. You have to say something, or you have to do a face, or you must have some kind of gesture, or throw the card up and catch it, something like that. You must have something to increase that moment of tension. We are creating tension, and when you reveal the card, we release the tension. You must do something about it. Okay, that's great. Let's take a look at the next trick. Okay, this next sequence is one of my favorites. I love this sequence, and it is a lot of the times where I stop. If I don't want to be quite tedious, I show them a trick with one card, the double lift, a trick with the other card, the 5 possibilities. I did a trick with both of the cards, the transposition under the card case. And now I'm going to do one more thing, which is 100% skill, and it is a great template to be quite funny, to do a lot of comedy, to do a lot of crowd work, like saying things to people funny, and it is great. It's like a blueprint, like some kind of blank page for you to fill in the bits with some jokes, and it's quite funny. So what I basically do is, once again, I control both cards, and I do exactly the same thing, but in this case I do it the other way around. First, I put the second selection, which is the red one, shuffle, fake shuffles, put on top the other one, and fake shuffles. I don't go towards anything more difficult than that. A lot of the times we do a very fancy control and people go like, there's something weird in there, and then you go like that and they go like, oh yeah, they are truly mixed, which is nonsense. But for people shuffling cards in a very weird way, it's weird. They don't care if you are shuffling the cards properly. What they are seeing is a weird way of shuffling cards. If you shuffle cards like they are used to shuffling cards, they are going to trust that shuffle, basically because that's how they do it, right? And they think that it is impossible to shuffle cards the way they do it without changing the order or controlling some cards, when in fact you can't. So I have the first selection and the second selection, and here basically what I do is a forced sequence. I talk about how every person has a card and your card is the 9 of clubs, aren't you? And it is contagious. If you touch another person for a couple of minutes, they are all also going to take your card, and that's how I go from person to person, take a card, and it is the 9 of clubs. In this sequence is a little bit risky to go with the classic force because I am not very good at it, but if I did the classic force to someone and I hit it, I may go for it a second time. But the first times that I do this, I do a riffle force, then I do a timing force, cutting packets on top of their hand, then I do a slip force, which is great because when you do the riffle force, you are stopping when they are asking you to stop, and then you are changing the place. When you do a slip force, you are not changing the place, but it is like a longer force because you are going like, okay, tell me stop, okay, you ask me stop right here, so your card is this one. It is a longer force to accomplish, so I like to do the slip force longer along the way of the sequence, but the timing force is great. And I know that some people struggle with the timing force, but it is a force that I've done a lot of the times and it never failed me. And you must be very good in improvising. If you do the classic force or the classic force or the timing force and you don't hit the selection, it doesn't matter. You have to control both selections on top. You take that card, top change it, and you go. But if you blow on your card, thank you very much, it becomes the 9 of clubs, and it looks like it was part of the routine. Sometimes I even do that on purpose because for people it's more impressive choosing the wrong card and then top changing it than doing it cleanly. Because let's face it, for laymen, they don't care if you are choosing the card saying stop here or saying stop cutting packets or simply grabbing a card from the middle. They don't care. They are not going to remember how they grabbed the card. They are simply going to remember that it doesn't matter the card that they picked, it was the 9 of clubs. Magicians are the only one thinking about the way they select cards. So when I do this, and very important to remind, I am only forcing this card. I am only forcing the 9 of clubs. This is the only card that I force throughout the whole sequence. At the very end of the sequence, I go, okay, tell me stop any moment you want, and I give the card and I show the 9 of clubs perfectly. But what happens if you tell me to stop? And then I go to the person that chose the 4 of diamonds in the second routine. Okay, tell me stop, and I force the 4 of diamonds. The 4 of diamonds, your card, that's great. And this is the end of the trick, because people is amazed of how well I am controlling this card and how well I am managing to make them pick this card always. But when you force the 9 of clubs and then you force the 4 of diamonds, it's like he was controlling the whole time both cards, he knew what, and suddenly you create the image that you know where every card is. And this is something that people truly ask me, like, okay, tell me the truth, you know where every card is, right? And I always go, well, it depends, not all of them, not all of them. I always like to play this nonchalant, I am not that skillful kind of character, because I think that that's better. If you sell yourself like, yeah, I know where every card is, not in this deck, but in every deck around like 20 kilometers around, I know the position of every card in every deck here. If you go with that route, it's quite difficult to amaze people, but if you go with a nonchalant, like, nah, I don't know, I have no idea, that simply happens, I don't know how it happens. If you go with that approach, people are going to be much more impressed. Performing for this second card, because you can force it and put it face up right at the moment that you are forcing the card, it is not a force where he has to take the card face down. You can say touch any card that you want, and you simply turn it around and you show it face up. I love using the shinobi control as a force. It is a great force. If you can force a card and turn it around and put the card face up in the middle of the pack, it is a great force to use because it really creates the same illusion as the classic force because you are spreading the cards, right? The only downfall is that you have to put the card face up, right, in order to do the force. But it is great in this case because you already know that the person is going to select the 4 of diamonds because we know that this is his or her card, right? So this is a great sequence, extremely funny, and it is one of those moments where people truly go like, this guy is great, this guy is great, and it is no longer about the trick, it's about yourself, it's about your personality. So this is a great sequence, and it is great to stop it here, like 9 of clubs, 4 of diamonds, thank you very much, that's it, good night, and it is great, and now you start talking with people, and this is a great way to start a conversation. But how can you do that? And they start taking the cards, there must be some other 9 of clubs in here, and you go like, the deck of cards is not even mine. So it is great piece. So, as I already mentioned, sometimes I stop right here if I don't want to be quite long. If I only want to do like 10-12 minutes, I will do these four routines, the double lift, 5 possibilities, I have my phone here, the finding both cards with the change under the case, the transposition, and then the force sequence, right? But I love magic with the 4 aces. I love tricks using the 4 aces. So at this point what I would do is having both of these selections on top of the table and then quite quickly go through the deck like, are there here the 4 aces? And as I am doing that, I am calling the 4 aces to the top or simply controlling them to the top. And then I can do a routine where the spectator cuts 4 packets and the top cards in each packet are the 4 aces. I love that. Then I love finding the aces, like when the aces are produced by the spectator, cutting the cards. I love putting the aces on the middle of the deck and controlling them, as I mentioned before, and then finding the aces myself one by one, and something that I love doing when I found the 3 aces is snooking the 4 ace between those 3 aces and placing the 3 aces on top of a spectator's hand, right? And then look for the 4 ace, and I produce a random card, and I go like, I think that the 4 ace is in your hand, and they spread the 3 aces that they have in your hand, and in the middle of the 3 aces there is the 4th one, and it is great if you can put the 4th ace in the middle and face down, because that way is clearer, right, that there is a card there that it wasn't supposed to be there, right, which is great. And then I love to do the change of the and this is the Doctor's, I don't remember the name, opener, where you have the 2 black ones, they have the 2 red aces, and then you change them, which is one of the greatest tricks that you can do on the spectator's hand with cards. And then I can do the poker test, right, when you do basically the same thing but only with 2. You go, okay, I think this is a little bit difficult, let's try only with 2. The ace of clubs and the ace of spades. You have spades, I have clubs, I change it like that. Have you feel it? No, take a look. And now they have both red aces, which is great. It's like I do the change with 4 cards, then you do it only with 2 cards. And poker test is quite impressive because for a very long moment they truly have a card on their hand and under their thumb, and they truly believe that that card was never switched. So it is great, it is outstanding. And that would be everything that I would do with aces, right? After that I would lose the aces in the middle of the deck together with the selection, but I would control the selections and I would do some kind of triumph. I love doing the triumph with the slop shuffle, something like that, and then there are 2 cards facing the other way at the end of the triumph, and both cards are together, and both cards are both selections. People kind of forget about the selections and now they reappear, so this truly creates like a act, like a show vibe, right, to the whole thing. And then I love finishing with Out of This World or Contact Colors by Aldo Colombini. Great routine. The thing with contact colors is that you need a whole deck. And if I am not sure if I have a whole deck, I'm not going to be counting cards in the middle of the performance, right? If I am not sure that I have a full deck, which is most of the times when they lend me a pack of cards, what I do is out of this world, because in that case it doesn't matter if the deck of cards is complete. And sometimes I can even do it with half of the deck. I don't need the whole deck in use. In case that I'm going to perform out of this world or contact colors, instead of losing the 4 aces after the sequence with the 4 aces, I leave the 4 aces on top of the table, because I need the 4 aces to prepare for contact colors or to divide the cards when I do the out of this world. Sometimes I finish with the 4 sequence, sometimes I finish with the triumph sequence, and if people are truly in, this is the moment where I go, okay, would you like to see something that I rarely do? Which is true, I very seldom do the out of this world or contact colors, because I really want people to see these tricks quite rarely, right? If I do this trick a lot, they are going to understand that somehow I am accomplishing this, right? I have a very a good friend of mine, friend of my family, that he says out of this world is, he doesn't say out of this world, obviously he doesn't know the name of the trick. He says the trick where people say red and black is like holiday. I only see it once a year. And it is great, and sometimes not even once a year, but sometimes when we met, we do that trick and he loves it. And I do it rarely, because I really want people to understand that this is quite impossible. They are calling it, they are saying red, black, and they are perfectly 100% correct. And it is a longer trick, we have a long process to go, and this is the only trick that I don't like to present in a funny way or in a comedic way. I really like to present out of this world, not serious, but like in a contrived way. Like, I need to be careful with everything I say, with every gesture that I do, to make sure that it's going to work. And a very interesting idea for us to have as magicians is that I was performing some close-up magic after the big show in a first Holy Communion, and this friend of my family said to everyone at the table, okay, Antonio is not going to perform this trick here because he's not prepared, and it is a quite difficult trick, but he performed for me once a trick where everyone went red, black, and everyone was right. The red cards were on one side, the black cards were on the other side. It was amazing, right? And I said to him, do you want me to do that trick now? And he was like, can you do it now? And I was like, we can try, I don't know. I feel comfortable, I think we can do it. And he truly said he cannot perform the trick right now because he's not prepared. For him, out of this world was a trick that needed some kind of difficult preparation, or that needed some kind of contrived, strange setting for me to be able to perform it, right? And this is something that you accomplish with your performance and with your delivery of the lines, right? He truly believed that this trick was a rare thing, that it's kind of the right place, right moment kind of thing to perform the trick, which is great. It's great because it is an event for him to talk about that trick. And he always mentions when I performed this trick, a woman started to cry, a young woman there. When I revealed that all the colors were right, a woman started to cry, a friend of my sister, and hugged me like, how can you do that? Oh my God, it was amazing. And they remember that experience quite in a very powerful way, right? Which is great. So after out of this world, there is no way of doing anything else. I leave the cards on the table with the red cards on one side, the black cards on the other side, and I walk off. Thank you very much, that's it. And it is one of those tricks that anyone is going to ask you for anything else. After you perform out of this world, that's it. And if sometimes people don't even want to touch the cards, because it's like a painting. It's like, I don't want to touch the card. They are all, we have all divided the cards in colors. It's great. So I truly love that trick. I would love to perform this trick more often, but I think it's great to have it there as a trick that you only perform sometimes, quite rarely, because it truly is a treasure in itself. Great routine. So that's everything for today's video, guys. I hope that you found this information useful. This is truly 100% what I do every time that I find myself in a situation when I have to improvise some kind of show with a shuffle deck of cards in use that sometimes is not even complete. and you can comment below if I mistake something, if I don't remember the name of some move or some trick. You can comment below. Please subscribe, and I will see you as always in a near future. Bye there.